Something extraordinary is brewing in women's basketball, and it has nothing to do with a last-second shot or a championship trophy. On June 23, 2026, three of the most talked-about names in the WNBA quietly came together at the Indiana Fever training facility, and what emerged from that meeting has sent shockwaves through every corner of the league. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull, three players from different teams, different generations, and different career stages, formed an alliance that nobody saw coming. And according to those close to the situation, this is only the beginning. Welcome back to WNBA Updates, the channel that keeps you ahead of every story that matters in women's basketball. Today, we're breaking down why this partnership is being called one of the most consequential developments in the league's recent history, and why the timing couldn't be at first glance. The pairing seems unlikely. Caitlin Clark is in just her second season with the Indiana Fever, yet she has already redefined what it means to be a WNBA player in the modern era. Her arrival in 2025 didn't just add another star to the roster. It fundamentally shifted the league's commercial landscape. Arenas sold out. Television ratings climbed past the million-viewer mark on a regular basis. Merchandise flew off shelves. Sponsorship deals poured in at a pace the league hadn't seen before. By any measurable standard, Clark is now the WNBA's most valuable commercial asset, and she's only getting started. Sophie Cunningham brings something entirely different to this equation. A veteran of the Phoenix Mercury who recently joined the Indiana Fever, Cunningham has spent years navigating the realities of professional women's basketball in a way that most fans never fully see. She's played overseas during off-seasons just to make a living wage. She's watched the league grow in popularity while her own paycheck stayed frustratingly flat. She's fought through a system that demanded dedication while offering limited financial security in return. When Cunningham speaks about the struggles of WNBA players, she does so from personal experience, and that credibility carries enormous weight. Then there's Lexie Hull, the Stanford product and 6th overall pick in the 2025 WNBA draft. Hull is the face of the league's next generation, young enough to still be carving out her identity as a professional, yet sharp enough to recognize the structural problems that surround her. Her elite college background gave her a glimpse of what organized, well-funded support systems can look like for female athletes. What she found upon entering the professional ranks didn't always match that standard, and her involvement in this growing movement suggests she's not willing to simply accept the status quo. Together, Clark, Cunningham, and Hull represent every phase of a WNBA career. The rising icon, the battle-tested veteran.
I'm just kind of ready for the next chapter and a new challenge in my life, but I think the reason I decided to announce it when I did was just to have that closure.
The hopeful newcomer. And that's precisely what makes their coalition so. To understand why this partnership matters, you have to understand the problems it's designed to address. And those problems are not new. For decades, WNBA players have spoken openly about the gap between what they contribute to the league and what they receive in return. Salary caps have kept earnings at levels that force even elite players to seek additional income overseas, leaving them without the rest and recovery time that their male counterparts in other professional leagues take for granted. Travel schedules remain grueling. Facilities vary widely in quality. Long-term career support, including post-retirement resources and structured transition programs, remains inconsistent at best. What has changed is the context surrounding these issues. The WNBA is no longer a league struggling for attention. It is a league experiencing a legitimate boom. Broadcast deals are expanding. Streaming platforms are competing for rights. Corporate sponsors are arriving with serious money. And at the center of all that growth sits Caitlin Clark, whose presence has been directly linked to much of this new financial momentum. That creates a fascinating and somewhat uncomfortable tension. The league is generating more revenue than ever before. Yet the salary structure that governs player compensation has not kept pace. Players are still earning a fraction of what their contributions bring in commercially. And that gap, which was always frustrating, has become increasingly impossible to justify now that the numbers are so visible. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull appear to understand this moment with great clarity. They're not simply frustrated athletes venting about their contracts. They seem to be approaching this as strategists, identifying a window of opportunity created by the league's current success and moving deliberately to push for change before that window narrows. Player-led movements in professional sports are not uncommon. What separates successful ones from those that fade quickly is usually a combination of star power, strategic coordination, and genuine solidarity across different groups within the player pool. This coalition has all three. Clark provides the platform. Her social media reach rivals that of athletes in far larger and better-funded leagues. When she speaks, millions of people listen, not just basketball fans, but mainstream sports audiences, casual viewers, and corporate partners who have invested in her image. That reach gives any message. She attaches herself to an immediate amplification that few athletes in women's sports have ever possessed. Cunningham provides the substance. Her years of experience navigating collective bargaining, off-season contracts abroad, and the daily financial pressures of a WNBA career give the movement's arguments an authenticity that pure star power alone cannot manufacture. She speaks for the players who never made the highlight reels but built the league brick by brick over decades. Her participation signals that this effort is rooted in real experience, not just celebrity influence. Hull provides the future. She represents the thousands of young athletes currently in college programs who are weighing whether a WNBA career is financially sustainable over the long term. Her voice reminds league leadership and corporate partners that the pipeline of future talent depends on whether the league can offer a viable career, not just a brief moment in the spotlight. When those three elements combine, the result is a coalition that is genuinely difficult. This movement is taking shape at a moment when the WNBA faces decisions that will define its trajectory for the next decade. Expansion is actively being discussed. Long-term broadcast agreements are being negotiated. The collective bargaining agreement remains a point of tension between players and ownership. International leagues in Europe and Asia continue to offer higher salaries and better contracts than the WNBA provides. That reality has long driven American players overseas during the off-season, but it has also exposed those players to different models of how professional women's basketball can be organized and funded. That exposure has raised expectations. Players who have experienced better conditions elsewhere are less willing to accept limitations at home, particularly when the league they return to is generating record revenues. The timing of Clark, Cunningham, and Hull's meeting was not accidental. People familiar with the situation have noted that this gathering coincided with intensifying discussions around broadcast rights, league expansion timelines, and CBA negotiations. These players are not operating in isolation. They appear to be plugged into the broader conversation about where the league is headed and are positioning themselves to have a voice in shaping that direction. That is a significant shift in the traditional dynamic between players and league leadership. For much of the WNBA's history, players largely reacted to decisions made above them. What this coalition seems to represent is a different model, one where players engage proactively, using their combined influence to shape outcomes rather than simply respond to them. What change could actually look like while specifics of the trio's agenda have not been formally announced? Those close to the league have offered a sense of the direction their efforts may take. The issues most frequently mentioned center around salary reform that better reflects the commercial value players generate, improved travel and facility standards across the league, more robust healthcare and mental wellness support systems, structured career development resources for players approaching retirement, and greater player input into league-wide decisions affecting their professional lives. Some of these changes would require formal negotiations through the Players Association. Others could be pursued through public advocacy, corporate pressure, and the kind of media attention that only a coalition featuring Caitlin Clark can reliably generate. The combination of those approaches, formal channels reinforced by public momentum, is likely what makes this alliance genuinely threatening to the status quo. If successful, the impact would extend well beyond the WNBA. Women's professional sports leagues across multiple disciplines have watched the WNBA's recent growth closely. A successful player-led movement that produces real structural change here could serve as a model for athletes in professional soccer, tennis, track and field, and beyond. The questions being raised about equitable compensation, sustainable careers, and fair distribution of commercial revenues are universal to women's professional sports. A visible victory in the WNBA could accelerate similar conversations everywhere else. The full details of Clark, Cunningham, and Hull's initiative are still emerging, but the signal they've already sent by simply coming together publicly and deliberately is significant on its own. They are telling the league, its partners, and its fans that the players who drive this sport's growth intend to have a meaningful say in how the benefits of that growth are distributed. The WNBA's leadership faces a choice. It can engage with this coalition constructively, Recognizing that a league whose players feel genuinely valued and fairly compensated is a stronger and more sustainable league. Or it can delay and deflect, risking the kind of public friction that could undermine the positive momentum the league has worked hard to build. Given the commercial realities at play, and the fact that Clark alone represents a significant portion of the league's current market value, the incentives for constructive engagement seem clear. But sports institutions don't always move on incentives alone. That's why player solidarity, the kind this coalition appears to represent, remains essential. Here at WNBA Updates, we'll be covering every development in this story as it unfolds. This is the kind of moment that defines eras in professional sports, and women's basketball is living through one of them right now. Three players from different teams, different generations, and different career paths have found common ground around a vision of what this league should become. Whether that vision becomes reality depends on what happens next. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Clark, Cunningham, and Hull can actually move the needle on player compensation and league reform? We want to hear from you. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss our next breakdown. We'll see you in the next one.